Let's check on our status. Mr. Wickeby is madly in love with us. And Colonel Brandon likes us a lot. Whatever, screw it. Let's just rest all week. An earnest desire. Misery seemed to follow me through the week. I cared not for the life that was before me. Without Wickeby, all life seemed to wither and break into slivers and thorns. I felt more than thought, and all feeling left me pained. At this moment of desperation, I was surprised to receive a visitor. Oh, Colonel Brandon is to talk to us, to give us comfort. Okay. There's a lot of talking going on, so let me try to summarize it in real time. Oh God, yeah, I'm finding you very awkward, Colonel Brandon. Just get to the story. A short account of myself, I believe, will be necessary. It shall be a short one. Go on, Colonel. Continue. I'll hear you out. You want to tell us something about Wickeby? Yeah, tell me. I want to know. Yes. Okay, he's telling us about his past with Miss Eliza. He really loved her, and she loved him too. However, she was married against her will to Colonel Brandon's brother just because she was rich. So Colonel Brandon's brother, oh my gosh, he just took her money and treated her really unkindly. And because she was only 17 and impressionable, she fell from grace. She had no friends and no love from her husband. And the thing is, Colonel Brandon wasn't even in England at the time because he was overseas for work. And when he came back from England, he heard that Eliza was divorced. When he found her, she was in a sponging house, confined for debt, altered, faded, worn down. God, she also has consumption. She was dying. She was dying of consumption. So Colonel Brandon took care of her. Oh, wow. And took care of her child. Okay, so now Miss Eliza Jr., the daughter, is at Dorsetshire. But last February, she went to Bath with one of her friends and disappeared. Colonel Brandon stopped and looked at me for a moment as though waiting for me to put the pieces together. Oh, yeah. This is why he ran out of there at Whitwell. He got a letter from Eliza Jr. that she was in trouble because of Mr. Wickeby. Mr. Wickeby left the girl whose youth and innocence he had seduced in a situation of the utmost distress, with no creditable home, no help, no friends, ignorant of his address. Damn, he said he'd returned and he just disappeared. He ghosted her. His character is now before you. Colonel Brandon is saying this even though it hurts him. So I'm going to thank the Colonel. Thank you. I had no reason to doubt the Colonel's motives. I could not believe that Mr. Wickeby could use me so, and yet so it had been. Might he have simply been planning to leave me in the same situation as Eliza? I shuddered to think of it, but think of it I did. Wickeby had left me for Miss Grey's money, but had he really left me at all? Had any of his intentions towards me been honorable? Or was it simply a toy he played with until he found another? I could not help but feel the hurt, as I wondered if he had ever really cared for me. Might he care for me still? And if he did care for me, could I possibly care for him knowing all this? A man who had disregarded all but his own pleasure to the utter ruination of those whom he seduced. I could not imagine any feeling of kindness ought to be felt for such a man. But in my heart, did I feel something for him still? TBC. They've updated Colonel Brandon's description, but it's so sad. Colonel Brandon loved a girl dearly, and after misfortune befell her, he took responsibility for raising her child. That child was, after being found to be with child, abandoned by her seducer, Mr. Wickeby. Colonel Brandon's sometimes pained expression and thoughtful nature belie how deeply he feels sentiment. I was certain The morning drifted by in a silence that gave me more apprehension than pleasure. As the afternoon passed, the post came, and with it a very surprising letter. From one George Wickeby. Oh boy. Okay, let's get ready for this. Wow, this is only page 1 of 6, so I'm going to summarize for ease. So Wickeby's writing to us because he doesn't want us to think too terribly of him. He wants to explain himself. And he says that when he first met us, he had no intention of actually continuing a relationship. He just wanted to have a good time. And he made himself as attractive as possible to get us to fall for him, but he had no design of returning this affection. He needs money. He's desperate. That's why he can't be with us, because we don't have any money. But he admits that he acted in a mean, selfish, and cruel manner because he was leading us on. I did not know then what it was to love. He's saying that he's fallen in love with us. He is sincerely fond of us, and the happiest hours of his life were spent with us. Oh my God, he admits it. He was a libertine. But he's also saying she wasn't a saint necessarily. However, I do not mean to defend myself. Her affection for me deserved better treatment. My affection for you, my thorough conviction of your attachment to me, it was all insufficient to outweigh that dread of poverty, or get the better of those false ideas of the necessity of riches. So that's why he fled to London. I saw you miserable, and left you hoping never to see you again. But I find my heart full of guilt. What a hard-hearted rascal I've been. Though it should change nothing, I beg your forgiveness. Forgive Wickeby? After all he had done to me and others? I was shocked he should seek such a thing as forgiveness. I think we should forgive Wickeby, because I think he did love us. Because if he's such a rascal, such a rake, such a no-good, low-down scuzzball, he wouldn't have written a letter. He would have just ghosted us. So let's see what happens if we don't forgive Wickeby. I could not and would not grant him any sense of reprieve. I was certain that as long as I suffered, he too should feel pain. Ooh, we write a letter back to him saying, "What am I to imagine, Mr. Wickeby, by your behavior and your explanation? Since the ball, I've passed many a wretched night endeavoring to excuse you. But now you've asked me to forgive you? How am I supposed to do it? You are not who I thought you were. I hope the pain will haunt you as befits a man of such wicked inconstancy and libertine lusts. I shall speak to you no further. Bye." Wow, okay. Everyone thinks you're really mean. My heart overwhelmed my senses. Wickeby was gone, and the Wickeby I knew and loved perhaps had never even existed. Love was unjust in the terrible cruelty it forced upon my heart. What would happen if we did forgive him? Let's go back. Forgive Wickeby. It would not be an easy thing to do, but keeping this feeling in my heart and continuing to feel this anger towards him could not help me. Such a feeling would not undo what had already been done. It could only undo what was yet to come. The difference in this letter is that we're basically saying that it hurt me to think badly of you. My feelings at present are dreadful, but further hatred of you does not make it better. I find no solace in hating you forever, nor can I find any healing. You have breached my confidence in a most cruel way, but I shall overcome it. I shall forgive you. May we both find peace. Very mature. Yeah, we're kind of depressed. Waved goodbye to London with a heavy but hopeful heart. Taking my thoughts to nature, where I often thought the best, I took to our garden, where I was surprised to encounter an answer. Growing again. Since I was a young girl, I'd marveled each spring as the plants and bushes came to life, covered with flowers and new leaves. Yes, it's the circle of life. Life isn't a moment. It is a garden full of moments, opportunities, choices, failures, successes. each one magnificent in its own way. Wickeby! Hello. I could not have imagined a more unexpected face to appear at that moment than the one that stood before me now. What are you doing here? Wow, I have come to throw myself at your mercy. In vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. My heart and soul ache with pain, and I find myself unable to overcome my emotions. I am now surrendering to this love in hope that this action will be rewarded by your acceptance of my hand in matrimony. He's proposing! Marry Mr. Wickeby after all he'd done and said? He could not be serious. You know what I am. This is me, baby. Take it or leave it. That's what he's saying. But you were engaged. That can be dealt with easily enough. What I cannot deal with is eternal separation from you. Please consent to be my wife. Tell me you will love me as I am. Honestly, Wickeby is disgusting. We should not marry him. But, let's see both opportunities. Though I knew his faults, I still loved Wickeby. For what is true love other than to care for someone even when we know their faults? I knew we likely would always be poor for money and his heart might have moments where it strayed from mine. But those things did not matter to me. Oh my god. What a crappy ending. This is disgusting. What a crappy ending. I chose to marry Wickeby because I loved him. And I was certain that love would prevail no matter how many obstacles entered our path. Oh, congratulations. You've completed your story and unlocked ending 3, Mrs. Wickeby. Oh my god, I can't believe we married Wickeby and we're broke and he's cheating on us every 2 days. This is not right. Mr. Wickeby at times was a most wonderful husband. He was very amorous and we had many cherished tender moments together. But we've also had a lot of difficult days. His moral indiscretions didn't stop after we were married. Oh God. His affairs as they lasted divided us in every possible way. We had little money and often struggled to have food. And all he did was continue to see himself as a victim. Most of the alleged wrongs were of his own doing. I questioned my decision at times to marry Mr. Wickeby, but I had chosen it myself with my eyes open, and I refused to think badly of my choice. What a crappy ending. Oh! We've locked 5 of the 9 endings. So what happens if we refuse him? Mr. Wickeby was gone, but he had vacated my heart some time ago. Mr. Wickeby is no longer pursuing you. Yeah, bye. Enjoy all that money. But someone else remained. I couldn't help but think of Colonel Brandon. Exactly. He told you the truth about Mr. Wickeby, even though it was painful for him to relive those very sad moments from his past. He had done it without any hope for it to elevate himself. It was done selflessly and solely for me. Yeah, we were really prejudiced against him because he was old. But if I chose to pursue him, how could I let him know of my interest in him? I could have Father invite Colonel Brandon for dinner. Perhaps that would spark Colonel Brandon to speak more openly to me. So obviously I want to ask Colonel Brandon for dinner, but let's save, because I'm curious. Have Father invite Colonel Brandon. Ah, yes. I have a request, Father. I would like you to invite Colonel Brandon next Saturday. Are you sure? I had heard on very good authority that the Colonel is on the wrong side of 5 and 30 and not particularly handsome. Should you wish to set your cap at such a man? You worry about inviting the Colonel to dinner, and I'll worry about who I want to hook up with, Dad. Although it took a little teasing from Father to get him to do as I wished, I was in the end pleased with the outcome. Yes. That's a genius idea. You don't have to say anything. Let the music talk to him. Maybe the game is telling us to max out our talent. Chapter 17. Our talent is maxed out. Okay, I think I'm just gonna rest all week. Why not? The week had passed quickly, and I could only hope that I was ready to undertake the scheme I'd planned. It seemed strange to me, after all that I'd said, to be scheming for Colonel Brandon, but irrespective of our expectations, time often changes us. Favorite maxims. Mediocre, what are you up to? Jane was teasing me, but I wasn't sure I was quite ready to reveal my plans. You may keep your secrets if you wish, but I have an inkling. Oh, Lydia, as do I. Okay, let's see. Colonel Brandon is so awfully old. Lydia. Well, he is. I'm sure he was a perfectly fine bachelor years ago. I'm just not sure about now. I don't know how you could endure it. I have no intent of enduring it. I care for him deeply, even surprisingly. Have you ever discovered your opinions to be wrong? That something you were absolutely certain of in one way turned out to be the other? I was wrong to think of his age and not of the man. It blinded me, but I'm seeing more clearly now. His age makes him the man I want. He has the proper airs of someone his age. I'm certain that after some time with him, I could never be satisfied with a younger man. Yeah, Jane, you may be right. Piano and discussion. Create the right atmosphere for a more intimate discussion. Let's play the piano. With some trepidation, I stepped up to play. Thankfully, with all the practice I'd put in, my talent shined forth and made the emotionally stirring piano piece that I'd picked all the more moving. A bright-eyed but somber Colonel Brandon met me nearly the moment I finished. That was wonderful. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I must admit that I was thinking of you as I chose it. Colonel Brandon stopped for a moment, considering me carefully. I am not sure it is wise to think on me in this manner. Well, I'm going to profess my love for him. Though I thought of you warmly while choosing this piece, it was only a shadow of what I feel. I think of you much more passionately than this. Colonel Brandon, I admit when we first met, I scarcely thought of you as a potential husband, but now I think of little else. To be near you is to feel the warmth of life. I cannot but with regret say how wrong I was to think on your age before your character. That's nice. So we love him, not despite his age, but for it. A smile filled his face. I believed I loved you since the moment we met. I have tried to use my age as an excuse to not show it. Each time I became enchanted by you, I would reason my way back to safer ground, where I could objectively determine this love was not meant to be. I think you should stop doing that now. I do. I wish it with all my heart. We didn't think that someone so much older could be a proper suitor, but with a little aging myself, I cannot imagine that anyone younger could have ever produced a proper husband. Congratulations! Ending 6, Mrs. Brandon! So we really got him wrong. Our love opened him up and made him the happy-go-lucky guy he always was before tragedy cast a shadow all over it. With our whole hearts devoted to each other, it could be of little wonder at the felicity that resulted. That's so nice. Our love created a happiness that lifted us both and filled our lives with daily rapture. Before we close this out, I want to know what happens if we rejected both Wickeby and Colonel Brandon. Though I thought well of the Colonel, I still had reservations. He was much older than I, and the difference in age led to some awkwardness. As I stopped to consider all the men that I had met, I continued to return to the feeling that none of them would make a good match for me. So many times I felt I'd come close to creating a relationship worth building up further, but in each case, something was missing. I did not feel any dread sense of loss, though. Certainly, I could have made different choices and taken different paths, but I was happy with who I am and who I'd become. Congratulations, you've completed your story and unlocked ending 7, Miss Bennet. Didn't we already unlock Miss Bennet? This is nice. We're happy. Ooh, this is a different Miss Bennet. This is an empowered single female ending. As each morning sun rises, my senses seem to come alive. I am not yet married, and though I wish to, my single life has thus far been of my choosing. Well, there you have it. This has been a long mini-series within Matches and Matrimony where we've got 3 endings for the price of 2. So thanks for watching. I'm going to finish this entire game with the final playthrough, the Mr. Darcy edition. So stay tuned.